Hi everyone, it's Desiree and I am here with Spellbinders, and we are going to create 10 cards from this one kit, and this is their card kit of the month from October, and the theme for this month's kit is Sparkling Holidays. So first, let's see what you get inside your box once you get it. So to start up, you always get your card that tells you what comes in the kit. Gives you a little bit of inspiration as well, which I think is awesome. You get your cardstock, and you can see the colors that you get. You'll get a green, there's a gray, there's a lavender, a peach, a pink, a light blue, a silver mirror cardstock, white, and a craft color, a dark craft color. As always, you get a roll of double-sided tape and a square of double-sided foam squares. You get your 10 envelopes, and you will get your 10 standard A2 size card bases that are already scored and folded. Now that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and these are side folding card bases. You get your full 6 by 6 paper pad. Now remember, this is not cardstock, this is a paper pad, but it is a nice weight of paper, so it's great for layering and your backgrounds for all of your cards. You've got some great, I love that design. You've got some great designs in this paper pad, and some of them are foiled, so you get a little bit of everything. A packet of blue and light blue gemstones, and then as always, these wonderful die cuts. It is awesome. I do enjoy the die cuts immensely. These have a really pretty, there's lots of silvers, grays, blues, and dark greens. Your 3D stickers, some sentiment stickers, and then some foiled regular stickers. Your stamp set is perfect sentiments with a little bit of green and some berries. And then this is the die that comes in your kit as well. So some great sentiments, some more greens, and be able to make a poinsettia. So let's jump in right into our first card. So the first card, I'm using a lot of the dies. So I've already done my pre-die cutting with the poinsettias in the light pink, pink, and red color. I also use that to cut out some greens, both for the flower side and the green side. I chose my pattern paper. I'm using the double-sided tape to secure that onto my card base. And then I chose 2 of the sentiments, and I chose Holiday and Cheer. I die cut each of those sentiments 3 times, and I'm going to use my liquid adhesive to adhere them all together. When I apply my liquid adhesive, and this is my art glitter glue, I am applying it in dots, so it doesn't squeeze out too much. These are wonderful dies, and they're very dainty. So they have a great font set. The one thing that I absolutely love is when it comes to the sentiment Holiday, the dot for the I is connected to the L. That is awesome. I'll never lose the dot for the I now. So I just thought that was good then. You know, it's the little things that make us happy, right? Right. This one just made me ecstatic. So I'm going to add the last layer to Holiday, and then we will start placing all of our flowers. So what I was looking at, I wanted 3 poinsettias. So I'm going to start layering those and lightly just adding some dimension to them. So I just grabbed a scrap piece of fun foam, this is perfect for this. And I am using my Spellbinders tool-in-one and one of the adapters that you can get with that, which is the little tiny rounded edges to curve your paper and so forth. So I'm starting out with the light pink, then going to the medium pink, and then finally going to the red. Now I did also cut some of these flowers in the green, and what I'm going to do is use those as leaves underneath the flowers. That's the beauty when you have a poinsettia die, actually, because the leaves turn into the flower. So, you know, you don't need too many dyes going on there, just a couple. So I'm going to continue with the layering. I'm using my liquid adhesive to attach all of the layers together, and then all I'm doing is taking that stylus and pushing down in the center of that flower, and just adding that little bit of pressure will make that flower curl up, because you're breaking those fibers right there. So I cut a lot of the greens, and I cut them in green, in the dark green that came in the kit, and also the gray. You know, if you have cardstocks, then you can use grays or even blacks as shadows. I mean, you can use any color really to create a shadow. So that's kind of what my thought process was when it came to using the gray to give that image or that thought of the greens going on there. So with two main ones I have going across, and then I'm actually kind of tearing up the last one and creating pieces so that I can just create this sprig going across the card front. So by taking that last one and just tearing pieces, I'm able to make it full, because the die of course is bent one way. So you had that kind of that S curve. With these other pieces I'm able to fill in and make it just a little bit more even. Not perfect, but to just kind of sort of balance it out. Once I have all those pieces put in, I am now going to place the flowers that I have. Now you could just rip apart these leaves. I'm choosing just to come in with my scissors and to just cut them apart so that I can place them. Some of them I will be placing up onto my florals, and then I don't believe I do actually. You'd think I would know, I just did this. I believe I just attached them to the back, so I won't be tucking them in when it comes to the base of the flowers and throughout the greens. I kind of want these to sit right on top. Once they're set, I'll actually put those right along the top of the evergreen sprig that I've created. You know, it's amazing. It's very early in the morning. This is just a side note here. It's very early in the morning, and it's a nice cool morning, so windows are open. Why would people be cutting their lawns at this time? I'm just saying. So I apologize if you're hearing that background noise right now. Oh my goodness. So once I have my adhesive down, I'm going to press them in place, and now I'm going to set my die cut sentiment. I'm going to put the holiday towards the top, and then I'm going to put the cheer below the sprig. So the sprig's going to sit in the center. So I think with the sentiments, it actually kind of framed that just a little bit, little bit. I will close out putting some of the blue gems in the center of my flowers. And these gems are beautiful, by the way. And all kinds of sizes, which is nice. Again, I am using my tool-in-one with the craft pick side so that I can pick up those gems. So for our next card, this is a great, very simplistic card. So I pulled out my Distress Oxide in Tattered Rose, and I'm going to be using one of my makeup brushes, and I'm just going to add just a hint of color down along the right hand side and along the bottom of my card. One of these stickers is that beautiful banner, and it is all one piece, even though it is 3D, which is great because those poinsettias are actually lifted up off of that banner. So I just wanted that hint of color towards the back, and I chose the Tattered Rose because I thought it went well with the pink poinsettia. Once that is set, I'm going to choose some of the gems and just place those around, and our card will be done. How great is that? That's one of the things that I do love about the Spellbinders kits. Everything is right there to create your cards. You can create layers, you can create clean and simple, so you have many choices. So for our next card, card number 3, we're going to add some layers into this. And have some fun with those die cuts. So I chose the joy, I chose the calendar, I chose the sentiment, a Christmas wish, all of the presents, because who doesn't love gifts for any occasion? And then I chose those stars. Now, what's great is I love, well, this is not the great part. Okay. I love to layer papers, and I also love the vintage photo. So even though it's Christmas, vintage photo will still come in. So by using the vintage photo, what that does, at least for me, and how I look at it, is it frames the pieces. So when I'm layering a lot of die cuts or pattern paper or those types of items, I still want them to be separate. So I want them to each be visible. I want the eye, or whoever's looking at this, to be able to look at each of those items and be able to identify. So to me, that's what the vintage photo does for me. Again, when I'm looking at it, I can see each of the photos. I can see each of the images that I'm putting on. Okay, so I'm not sure if that would... Sometimes I ramble and get confusing. So hopefully I'm not confusing everyone here. So, okay, back to the card. So I'm cutting up that double-sided foam square. I'm putting that behind the sentiment of joy, because I do want that to be popped up off of the card. A Christmas wish is going to sit underneath that and kind of get nestled within there. And the same thing with my calendar. Now I'm going to actually have that be propped up as it goes in behind joy. What's great with the stars that I chose, I'm able to layer those, and they were the perfect size. So again, look at your die cuts. You could be able to layer them up and get a dimensional effect from them. No double-sided foam, just the act of the papers going on top of each other. So I was able to place that and made sure the point of the bottom of the star went between a Christmas, so I didn't cover up that sentiment in any way. I'm going to trim down the foam that I had placed because way too much going on there. Couldn't nestle that into the joy sentiment. I'm going to start adhering down my packages, first using my liquid glue, and then I'll come in with some double-sided foam so that they are propped up. And I have some dimension on them as well. Once all of these pieces are in place, you can see that they're hanging off my card base, and that's fine. I will be trimming those. The scissors I'm using are by Fun Stamper's Journey. These are very strong and solid scissors, but yeah, they're sharp. Very sharp. Just saying. So for our next card, again, still playing with the die cuts, and you can see these die cuts resemble the sticker, the 3D sticker that I used for our second card. So you could have added more to that if you wanted to have a bigger floral. So I've cut down a piece of pattern paper, cut it down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and that's usually what all of my panels that go on to my standard A2 side card bases are cut to, just so I have a little bit of a white border going around each of them. I did use the Poinsettia die again, and I used the gray and the silver this time to cut them out. The centers of the die cuts had that silver glitter. So by using the gray cardstock, sorry about that, that would be my rings clanking together, and the silver mirrored cardstock, it would help accent that glitter part of the flower. So I'm layering those up, and I also cut out, the die also had berries. So I cut those out with the mirror and the gray as well. So if you have die cuts and maybe you don't have gems or you don't have, you know, the drops, that's fine. You can use something like a berry die and use that as accents that you can put throughout your card. And you'll see that I actually use those. So now I'm just playing with the placement of the 3 floral images. Again, I do like to do everything in 3s. They say it's more appealing. I just like it. Maybe that's why, because it is appealing to my eyes, but okay. I also pulled some of the greenery from the die cuts just to break up those soft pastel colors. I'm now going to come in and place the silver florals around excuse me, the large. Now I'm also going to use the leaves as well. I pulled apart those florals, and then I'm going to use those leaves to place around as well to spread out those accenting colors. I grabbed one of the tickets that says "Keep this ticket, Polar Express, North Pole Direct." I thought that was absolutely cute. And then I'm going to add a banner that's going to come out from the center floral that says "Jingle All the Way." I'm now coming in with some of those leaves and just placing those around to continue the colors just to pop through. And now I'm just going to set some dots, some glue dots around, and I'm going to pick up the silver and gray circles that I have cut out. Again, it was a berry die. So if you have circle dies, or, you know, something that maybe you do have a greenery and it's got berries with it, you know, look at your shapes and then you can stretch that out. So this, I can get many different looks from this die set. For our next card, had to play with the ornaments that came in this. But first, again, I grabbed a piece of pattern paper for my backdrop, cut it to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I'm going to set that down onto my card base. Now, one of the things, this is kind of like a happy accident, and again, that's what they all are. We let these things go. There are no mistakes. We don't stop. We keep going. Again, you want to see how it turns out. Don't give up on this. So here's the happy accident. I had this idea when it comes to the ornaments. Of course, it involves string. But I didn't do the string before I put my panel onto my card base. So I'm like, how am I going to hide the string? So, and there was all kinds of ways. I could have just put bows on top of them. I could have tried to, you know, hide them behind the greens. Yeah, that would, to me, that was like a lot of work. So, and a lot of chances for me to destroy something, because, you know, that can always happen greatly. So you can see I've chosen the ornaments, and now I'm coming in. I have this silver metallic thread, and I'm just doing a very basic thread. I'm adhering it to the back and then just coming up through the opening, not worried if it's centered or not, making sure that when it does come up, it is going behind some of the greens to make it look like it is coming from another higher branch, just to at least try to give that illusion. I am using the double-sided foam squares along with the double-sided tape so that I can adhere this string. Now, this is a DMC metallic, and it's annoying to work with. That's all I've got to say. Because you can separate it. I mean, I don't know if any of you cross-stitch, but you can separate this thread, and yeah, it separates immediately. So just trying, I liked the width of it, and I didn't want to use just a single strand. I just wanted that to be seen. I should have chosen something else. Okay. So setting the last ornament, I do want that raised. So now you can see I've got these dangling. So now I'm going to open up the inside. So again, I forgot to just hide the threads behind the panel before I put it down. But here's a great way to design on the inside. So again, happy accident. They're all happy accidents. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the double-sided tape to get that metallic thread on there so that I don't lose it. And then what I'm going to do is fold over those ornaments. So you'll see the ornaments on the front, and then when you open it, you'll have the ornaments on the left-hand side. So see? Happy accident. Yes, it is. I thought it was ingenious. But again, it truly was not what I was going for. But I think it does create a nice accent to the card, because even the thread's going over to the other side. I'm going to add the sentiment of holiday wishes. Sometimes I amaze myself. You know, there are times, now we've all done this, when we're crafting and we're like, wow, that came out pretty cool. Neat idea. Yeah, it just happened. This is one of those moments. You know, we can admit it. Okay, enough of that. So for our next card, I pulled out the pattern paper with the wood grain and the foiling on that. I grabbed my tumbled glass, Distress Oxide, and using one of my makeup brushes, I'm going to also use Shaded Lilac and just creating a hint of color in the background, because again, I thought more of the back was going to be shown. Again, it's another happy accident. Sometimes I get carried away. I love these die cuts. I love layering paper. So I'm using my double-sided tape to put my wood pieces down. These are just staggered cuts. I specifically did not want them even. You can cut them any size that you're looking for. Two of them are going to go straight down onto the cardstock or the card base, and then the final one is going to be propped up using some double-sided foam tape. I pulled down all of the adorable snowflakes and some of the berry branches, and I'm just playing around with the location of where these are going to go. So you can see I'm pretty much covering up the Distress Oxides that I used in the background, but that's okay. You can see a piece of it. You can see a little peek if you look there, and it does add something. Maybe. Let's go with it. I'm still, and sometimes, again, I let what I see in front of me tell me, okay, Des, you're getting carried away with the die cuts, stop adding. So that's why you can see I'm coming in with some, putting them in there, I'm looking, I'm like, oh my goodness, no, that's way too much. Because you can overdo it. But again, that's up to you. Some people may want more die cuts and more layers for it. Not saying that can't happen. Absolutely that can happen. But sometimes I do need to curtail myself. Yes. But between the different layers, and by, again, using the vintage photo, okay, I know it sounds weird. Now, you don't have to use vintage photo. You can use a tumbled glass. You can use a gray. You could have used pumice stone. You could use, another color, ice spruce or spruce. Yeah, ice spruce. So those are the colors that you can also use too. I just always reach for the vintage photo. I think it does a good job framing the pieces. This card, I'm using, again, my makeup brushes. I promise the background will not be covered up. I'm going to be using one of the stickers, and I chose Shaded Lilac for the backdrop. I'm going to take this sticker, and it is a 3D sticker because the little mouse and the star are propped up. I'm going to set that right down on top of that. I do like that I have that white outline. Helps to make that stand out. grabbing one of the sticker sentiments that says, "May all your Christmas wishes come true," and looking to see if I was going to add another one, and then just going to add some of the blue gems. Now what's great is I went right onto the card base with this. So again, just the card base, some inks, and adding your stickers, and you have an absolutely adorable and beautiful card ready to go for the holidays. For card number 8, I went to the dies again, and I used the Greenery one, and I cut that using the gray cardstock. So the pattern paper that I grabbed, and again, this was cut, this one's actually cut 4 by 5 1/4. I did want a little bit more of a white border. Now I'm just cutting down, this is the 3D sticker that I'm going to use, but I wanted to be able to draw a circle, so I cut really close to where the sticker was going to come off. I'm going to use that as my guide as I take these gray, I'm going to call them ferns, because saying greenery, it's going to mess me up. I'm just saying. I'm going to use that to guide these around to create this wreath. I have these white evergreens coming in from the side of the cardstock because of the way that I cut it. I did want those to make sure that they were still visible. So by having the grays in there, it's another soft effect. And again, with the purple, I love gray and purple. I really like the way that looks. I wish I would have pushed that down just a little bit more. That is kind of off. Didn't create a perfect circle there, but that's okay. See, I cover it up with the sticker. So going to use my paper creaser just to push that down, but just put the sentiment right in the center. And then with the shade of the gems in the light blue and the blue, they have a gray tint to them. There's a gray hue to these gems, and I think they are just perfect just to add some accents around this. So a little bit different, using the dies to create your wreath, and then the 3D stickers to add your sentiment. For card number 9, a quick watercolor effect type technique. A lot of terms going on there. So I am using my Distress inks, and I am using pine needles and festive berries. I'm putting ink onto the stamp. I'm misting it with my mist sprayer and stamping down onto my watercolor paper. The watercolor paper that I am using is the Canson XL watercolor paper. Oh, yes, Canson XL. I've got 2 of them that I have. I just need to make sure. Once after I add my ink again, I just do one light mist spray onto that and just stamp those down. I love the effect with this. And by adding, now again, the more water you add, the more water effect you will have. It will get lighter. So the first leaf or the first branch that I stamped, I had more water. The second one, I didn't want it so light, so I only added 1 spray. So that's how I'm able to get those differences. I let these dry. I don't like to use, or I try not to use. By the time I get to my splatters, my 2 branches and berries were done. Because the Distress inks, they move and they get these blotchy effects, and it's really cool. So I'm using the pine needles and the festive berries to create some splatters off of those branches. And then that's when, because for some reason, splatters sometimes take a really long time to dry. So I did force those. And I did use my heat tool. I'm going to cut apart a couple of the sentiments. I don't know if you could just pull these apart. I didn't want to take a chance, so I used my scissors to cut the 2 sentiments that I was going to use. The 2 that I chose were Have a Wonderful, and then down on the bottom right, I'm going to put Everything. So a very, very clean, but beautiful watercolor effect. And people will think you watercolored that. And they never need to know. I'm going to use my Gina K Obsidian ink to stamp my sentiment. And thank goodness that I put it in my stamp positioning tool, because of course I didn't stamp it right. I grabbed some red and white twine, created a double bow, and I will secure that with a glue dot. And then just trim the edges if I have to. I'm going to use my double-sided tape to put this up onto my standard A2 size card base, and of course the vintage photo came up. Just a little bit though, not a lot. I know, I'm addicted to it. There should be a group for it, because it is a little obsessive. And I have many people ask if I own stock in it, basically. Not really, but yeah, it's my favorite. It's definitely one of my staples. You know, we all have our staples, and that's definitely one of them. If I had to choose one ink, that would be it. Absolutely. So I'd have funny sentiments. So on to our last card. So I chose again a pattern paper with the beautiful, it's a dark background with some gold-like stars. Cut that down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I grabbed a piece of the gray and the light, we'll call that lavender cardstock, and I just drew some hills, very odd shaped hills. But that's kind of what I was going for. And these were also cut to the width of 5 3/8 as well, because I had already stuck down my pattern paper instead of waiting to trim off the edges. So I'm also doing the same with the lavender once the gray was done. And yes, I will use the vintage photo just to add some shadows to the tops of those hills. I loved the colored scheme of this kit. We had different shade of teal blues and greens. They were dark. They weren't, you know, those bright colors. With the lavender, it just helped to make them stand out. The glitter accents, the grays. There were just some beautiful colors in this, and that's what really caught my eye when it came to what I chose. Even though it looks dark, I really do like the look of it because of those shades, and that purple in the front just helps to pull that up. So I adhered down the gray and I popped up the purple hills with double-sided foam. I have my Santa that's going to sit up on top, and then I'm going to use the 25. That will be propped up on double-sided foam as well. So now I'm just placing these pine trees throughout, cutting some down so that I can place them and make them different sizes and heights throughout my hills. I will use both my liquid adhesive and the double-sided foam to set them in place. So lots of dimension that's going on with this card. It's almost like the Santa icon. I don't know. I looked at that as kind of like the moon. To brighten, if you wanted to brighten this up, you could have added, or you can add a white gel pen. You could add some white dots to brighten up that background a little bit. Use your white gel pen to add some highlights to the hills. You could have skipped the vintage photo by all means and used white to accent that, whether it's by your white gel pen or if you have a white pigment ink or white ink. You know, again, many ways to change the look of that card. I'm going to set the final pieces in place. Almost got ridiculous where I was going to put the 25. So we decided to put that up on top. Deciding whether or not if I was going to put some gems, chose not to. And those, everyone, are my 10 cards from the Spellbinders kit of the month from one of their value clubs. So I do hope you enjoyed them. All the products that I used will be listed down below in the video description, along with links to the Spellbinders blog, shop, and of course their inspirational gallery. There are so many photos there and videos that you can watch to continue to be inspired. I want to thank you. Oh, if you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave those down below. And I will get back to you as soon as I can. So now I will say thank you so much for spending this time with me. Yes, this video is a little bit long, but I wanted to make sure you could see as much as possible as I was creating. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell to make sure that you know what the next video is and when it's ready to be watched. Hope everyone's having a great day, but always remember what's most important to me. Always be creative.